Hello, this is Dr. Darnise, and welcome back into another episode of Dr. Darnise's House of Religion, Magic, and Conjure. Hi, how y'all been? Well, I wanted to come on today and talk about this, the religion involved in the election cycle that we're seeing now. I was giving this lecture in my African American religions class, and I was like, I'm going to make a little video about this too, because, particularly what we're seeing in the state of Georgia. Now, you may be saying, why are we talking about the election? Because the evangelical Christians vote according to their religion. So now they had anticipated this huge red wave going across the country, right? Because they were like, okay, well, everybody, all of the supporters of 45 are going to be feeling some kind of way, and they're going to want to get power back as Republicans. So Republicans are conservative. They keep espousing a Christian identity. Like, they're very firm about their Christian identity. They're very vocal about their Christian identity. Therefore, when they're speaking to their constituency and encouraging them to go vote, and what they're encouraging them to go vote for, they are essentially pushing those evangelical Christian buttons. So a lot of evangelical Christians vote their religion. So as I was explaining this to my class, right, I said, now let's watch what the evangelicals are doing, because many will not look at any other issues, right? They'll look at abortion, being pro-life or pro-choice. They'll look at basically single issues, or they'll vote their fear because they're afraid of all of these foreigners or different ways of being are going to take over. So they vote their religion as Christian evangelicals, right? Remember when 45 was in office, how he kept calling himself a Christian, right? We laughed as he even held the Bible upside down in front of that church. But we also know that any politician running for office, national office, has to affirm themselves to be Christian in order to get the evangelical vote. Now, you remember when Barack Obama was running, he had that whole thing with Jeremiah Wright, because Jeremiah Wright was like, oh, he's so radical, he's so militant, he's just doing black theology, and he hates white people. So Barack Obama had to reposition himself almost separate from Jeremiah Wright. He had to put distance between himself and Jeremiah Wright. Y'all remember that? Because people were mad at Obama for doing that. Like, oh, okay, you sat at that church for years, and then you kind of threw Jeremiah Wright under the bus, because the evangelical Christians, the white people mostly, have to feel comfortable with you. So again, 45, he knew that. And so he marketed himself as an evangelical. So here we are now at these midterm elections. And once again, we're seeing how America is not, in fact, we do not have a separation of church and state. We do not have a separation of church and state, y'all. Because we have conservative Christians who feel like this country should operate according to Christian conservative values. That's what they feel like it should be. And they're very vocal about it. They're very firm about it. So when we see the Republicans coming out to vote, many of them just vote their religion. So I hope this is not actually news to you, right? They represent a certain mindset around making or keeping America great. Like, what is that? What is it? What is this vision of America that's great that you have? Because it's about 50-50. So now we're in the aftermath of the midterm, and now we're seeing that Reverend Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker are almost tied in the state of Georgia for that Senate seat. Now, what could it be? What could it be to make people, conservative Christians and really mostly white people as Republicans go to the polls and vote for Herschel Walker to be a U.S. Senator. That man does not have the qualifications to be a U.S. Senator. I don't care what else he might be skilled at doing, being a great football player. You know, he could have talents I don't know anything about. But one thing we've seen is he is not equipped to be a U.S. Senator. So the fact that he is almost 50-50 with Reverend Raphael Warnock for that Senate seat tells us, thinking people, that those Republicans going to vote for Herschel Walker are not really voting for Herschel Walker. They're voting for retaining power, Republican power in the Senate. And they don't care who it is. They just want their party to be in power. Because this man, Walker, he stands far and far distant from what they consider to be their moral majority, right? Their moral, conservative, Christian set of values. They threw them away for 45. They threw them away for Herschel Walker because didn't they just overturn Roe v. Wade? I'm talking about these political things because it's actually a tie-in with religion. And you got to see, as I tell my students in the classroom, you got to see that these people are voting their religion. They are not supportive of Herschel Walker. They're supportive of their party, which says that we are conservative, that we hold these certain values, which are conservative. And we know that most of the people in that party are white conservative Christians. And when they say they want to keep America great or make America great again, they're talking about imposing their viewpoint as white conservative Christian Republicans. That's the reality of what they want to see when they look around the country from coast to coast. That's the reality they want to create. So it doesn't matter the individual, it doesn't matter that Walker has had how many women now come forward and say he paid for their abortion. So now, and you would think they would backtrack because they're people of faith, right? On one level, they vote their religion. But then the hypocrisy shows, and then they don't even care. They don't care. Because then the power grab takes over and they're like, well, I guess I just rather be in power. I rather just control the government. I just rather control the American way of life than actually be true to my Christian faith. Because if I was true to my Christian faith, I'd have to live and walk more like Jesus did. You know, that brown-skinned Jewish man, they would have to actually live more in alignment with what Jesus was talking about. But what they're really saying is, now all out in front of us is, I care about the power. And then they just put Christianity on top of it because they know that their constituency wants to feel good about it, right? So they want to feel like, oh yeah, because we're Christian, we have to vote Republican. There's so many ministers all over, you know, you can catch, you know, videos of them all over YouTube, especially talking about if you are a Republican or if you are a Christian, you have to vote Republican. Now, white Christian ministers telling their people, if you're a Christian, you have to vote Republican. You cannot vote Democrat because Democrats are pro-abortion. Now, I don't think anybody's actually pro-abortion. People are pro-choice so that individuals can make their own decision. In any case, you can see many conservative white Christian ministers telling their people, their flock, hey, if you're a Christian, you have to vote Republican because you cannot vote for those abortion-loving Democrats. So as I said, I was just giving this lecture maybe a week ago, and then following up with the election process. And I said, let me come on and make a video about this because this is how you see how intertwined our political system and our religion is in America, right? Even throughout Europe, they're just amazed at how stuck on religion America is. They looking like, why y'all, you can't rule like that. Religion is a personal choice. But that, if you have separation of church and state, that cannot be the law of the land, right? That's called a theocracy. Instead of a democracy, that's called a theocracy. When your religion establishes the laws of the land and everybody has to get in line with the religion. Many Muslim countries are that way. And these Christian people, they're terrified of Islam, terrified of being under what has, what they know as Sharia law, even though they don't know anything about Sharia law really. But they just say, oh, no, the Muslims are going to take over and we're going to all be forced to live under Sharia law. You mean a theocracy? Which is in fact what they would want to have in America, as long as it was an evangelical flavored Christianity. That should rule the world, or in the country. And so we look at that election, especially in Georgia, and we see, because, and I say especially in Georgia because, Georgia's in a position now becoming a swing state. So a lot rests there. We saw Stacey Abrams didn't make it because those Republicans voted conservatively. And they're not trying to be as progressive as to have a Black woman Democrat be governor. So we watch Georgia because they're in that swing state kind of thing. So they can swing a whole election next presidential go round. They will end up with a whole lot of power. So, but also you can just look around the country at, other places that are Republican that continue to be red states and vote for Republicans. You see what they're voting for. So-called conservative values, except now they're like on blast because the hypocrisy is so great. They've got so many of their people, leadership, getting caught up in all kinds of scandals that it's like, really, y'all just out here. Y'all just out here and don't care. Now, we did see Reverend Jamal Bryant. Y'all remember Reverend Jamal Bryant? He's a pastor of Missionary Baptist Church. Not missionary, New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, Eddie Long's old church. I think I did a video on this. And so Jamal Bryant came out and said much of what I'm saying now in terms of, sorry, my phone, came out and said is pretty much what I'm saying, in the sense that Herschel Walker is really just somebody who, well, the way Jamal Bryant put it, he said that Herschel Walker was somebody who had always been listening, or at least for most of his life, had been listening to white men, groom him as coaches along his career. And now the whole Republican Party basically grooming him because they want him to be a puppet for them, because they realize he's not qualified for the position. And maybe he even has, what is that when you've had too many concussions, right? So you've got that disorder that football players have in older age. So Jamal Bryant's point was, here is a man who has always listened to white men. And he said, and if you think that he's going to get into the Senate and suddenly stop listening to white men, no, come on. The main reason these Republicans want him, or at least one of the main reasons they want him, is because he doesn't know about politics, and he's going to be the mouthpiece for them. Clearly, he's going to be a mouthpiece for old school white Republican people, also conservative Christian. Now, I wish I had my book here. My friend and my colleague, Aubrey Hendricks, I guess it's probably in my office, but it's called, it's about white Christian nationalism, which we have been seeing, just go back to any of that footage from the January 6th uprising, revolt, insurrection, whatever you want to call it, and see how many of those people trying to overthrow our government, had crosses, had, affirmed themselves as Christians while they're trying to overthrow the government. So that's white Christian nationalism, where their Christianity is rooted in whiteness and nationalism, clearly. They choke, right? They choke on the idea that Jesus was not white. They just gonna make Jesus white. They just gonna make Jesus white. Anyway, my friend and colleague, Obery Hendricks, wrote a book called Christians Against Christianity. And it's about the more recent uprising of white Christian nationalism. I mean, it's never gone away. We know the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, their full name is the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. The Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, because they saw themselves as putting order back into America. This is like Reconstruction history here. They're like, things are out of order because these Black people are free. These people, Black people, we don't have control over Black people anymore. So the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan said, we got to defend our country. We got to defend white womanhood. We got to clamp down on these Black people, especially these Black men, right? They wrap themselves in Christianity. So here we are, a century later, and we're still looking at them and their descendants and their offshoots. And they still call themselves Christian. So I'm going to put down in the description box my friend's book. You can get it on Amazon. He's a good friend of mine, another scholar, and you may have seen him on various shows on, CNN or MSNBC, because he is a noted scholar and he's asked to come and speak about these things often and over the last probably 10 years at least. So again, his name's Obery Hendricks. I'll put it in the description box so you can go and check out his book on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. But anyway, I just want to come on here and say, whatever you're looking at in terms of these elections, keep in mind that the Republicans know they have to appeal to the Republican, conservative, Christian, evangelical base. They know they have to. And so they pander. They tell those people whatever. And I say that because at this point, they're so caught up in various hypocrisies and scandals that it obviously doesn't matter, really. They just want people to vote for them. So they're like, oh, you're a Christian, you have to vote for us. And here we are. Now, as of today, I think it's official today, now there has to be a runoff between Warnock and Walker. They almost have 50-50, each of them. They've got like 48 and 49% or whatever it breaks down to. But now they have to have a runoff in Georgia. Why does Walker have that much support? Because it's a whole lot of white people voting. Obviously, it's not that they're trying to vote for this Black man, right? They are voting for their party because they want to see their Christian way of life be the norm. That's it. They don't care who it is. It could be Mickey Mouse. Put a MAGA hat on Mickey Mouse and they're good. Anyway, I'd love to hear your comments. So, write me some comments below. And this is the kind of thing I talk about in my classes a lot, African-American religions. I also have another class this semester called Race and Contemporary Issues. Race and Contemporary Society. And we talk a lot about this, the intersections of race and politics and gender and sexuality and, everything we talk about in that class. And so, it's Gen Z, people who are in college right now, 18 to 22, basically. And also in the selection process, the conservatives were caught off guard by Gen Z showing up at the polls. And I have been saying, you know what, if you are not around young people, if you just don't have, that age group around you, late teens into early 20s, if you don't have them around you, they're not invested in capitalism. They're not invested in a lot of this stuff. And you really got to watch Gen Z, because they come in with a whole new world order. I live among them. I work among them. And let me tell you something, as much as they are addicted to this thing right here. They are addicted, right? TikTok and all that. But they rather support Bernie Sanders. How old is Bernie Sanders? 80? They rather support an old man with fresh ideas than either of these parties, and definitely not the Republican Party. They are not about that life. They are not about that life. I told them today in class, I was like, I just want to pat y'all on the shoulder and say, good for showing up. Because if you have been paying attention to the election results and watching the conservatives at all, conservative news broadcasts, they are just surprised and shocked and fit to be tied. They said, oh, the young people came out. They act horrified. Ted Cruz is like, the young people came out, and single women. They literally said, single women got to get married, because when single women get married, they become Republican. And I said to myself, he is obviously talking about white women. He is obviously talking about white women. When single women get married, as married women, they join up with their husbands and become Republicans. They ain't black women. Anyway, I said I was going to stop. It is comical in a way, because we watch it because they're so shocked. They're like, oh, in order for the Republican Party to survive now, we're going to have to expand our base beyond our traditional base. Yeah, because you have a whole crop of young people coming up who are not about this whole homophobia, transphobia. They can't even wrap their minds around why you hating on somebody for being gay. Why are you hating on somebody because they're different from you? Gen Z is like, so what? Move on to like helping people with student loan debt, helping people with housing, helping people have jobs that they don't feel like they have to be a slave to, because Gen Z is not about coming to work and that's their whole life either. They are all in the idea of quiet quitting, because they don't want to work that hard. So they are really about establishing a new world order. And we're gonna see. I keep saying, well, I'm Gen X, and I'm gonna get, at some point fairly soon, I'll be leaving the university and I'll be sitting somewhere with my cat. I'll become a eccentric cat lady and watch what happens from the sidelines. So anyway, if you've stayed with me this long, I do appreciate it. I'll put long haul down there if you have stayed with me. And again, I think what I was going to say is, if you are interested in this kind of thing, the lectures I give in my class, my university classes, then you need to click on over to my online course that I have on Teachable, because I did a course. I mean, I structured a course on Teachable where you can have access to audio recordings of my actual lectures that I gave at this point, maybe a year ago. But on these kinds of topics, it's African-American religions. These are the real-time lectures that I was giving via Zoom, which is why I can now make it available. So, you can really hear what, not only what I'm teaching, but actually students and the kind of questions and comments that they raise, because I tell you, they come with some stuff. And again, if you're not around young people like this, you might be surprised at what they're thinking and what they're not thinking. They're not thinking about, they're not worried about home ownership. They're trying to be digital nomads. They're not trying to be settled down anywhere. They're gender fluid. They're fluid in their whole sexuality. I like it, whatever. More and more men are like non-binary, and it doesn't mean they're gay, because you have men who wear eyeliner and black nail polish, tattoos. They don't care about the same stuff. They're a new generation. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. So as you watch these election results, just keep in mind, these conservatives vote their religion. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Bye for now.